Hi there, and thank you so much for joining this week's episode of Wind Down Wednesday. Today, I am going to talk about the intersection of business development and sales in a law firm. Now, I know that most lawyers see or hear the word sales as the dirty word. However, in every single business where there is a need to secure a deal or a matter or a client for that matter, there is an element of sales. No matter how we want to look at it, how we want to dice it, how we want to, talk about it, there is an element of sales. Without a sale happening, without the sales process happening, in reality, there's no money to be made. There's no revenue to be made. There's no closing that happens. There's really no deal. At that point, in the absence of a sale happening through the typical sale process, is either a just by chance or a just on accident type deal that happens. But for the most part, without a sales process, there's really no sale. At that point, to be honest with you, you're looking at a charity, right? So today I'm going to highlight and talk about just some high level points that came up when I was talking to a recent strategic partner of Strategy Academy who is going to be coming on board to work with our attorneys one-on-one and also across entire practices as it relates to sales. And one of the things that we talked about is that attorneys, of course, don't want to use the dirty word sales. They don't want to talk about it. They don't want to be seen to be selling. They don't want to be in this space of looking like they're needing to make a sale. And I get it, because sales can be uncomfortable. It can be very off-putting sometimes to the person on the receiving end, as well as and feel uncomfortable to the person who is trying to close the sale. However, one place that we both agreed to in this discussion is that yes, the sale needs to happen, and yes, the sales process needs to happen, whether it happens fast or slow, on accident or intentionally, it needs to happen. One thing that we did get to, one space that we did get to, was saying that there's a way to do it so that it doesn't feel that way. And what came up, and we both agreed, was that if you're adding value and offering value at the onset, the sale will either naturally happen, even though it's still considered a part of the sales process. It's still the journey. The sale will naturally happen because you're adding so much value that the value outweighs the price or money that's paid for the services or product that you're offering, right? So in doing the sales piece of it, where you are, instead of going straight to selling on the onset, you're building a relationship, you're building up trust, you're adding value, you're demonstrating value to the prospect, then you don't feel like you have to do this hard selling out of the gate. And it also doesn't feel so difficult to close the deal when you're getting to that phase. Instead, like I said, if you're offering value up front, in most cases, the prospect is usually the one that jumps to, hey, can you send me a proposal, right? Or can we let's proceed now without having a further conversation, or however it slices down, right? It moves to the sale. It doesn't really matter. But one way to do it is to offer that value up front and demonstrate how that value that is being offered in the product or the service outweighs the price that's being paid, right? So if you're able to see sales in that way, approach it in that way, even if you are an attorney, you're a part of a law practice, and of course you have to close the deal no matter what area of business or type of business that you're in. If you approach it this way, it goes across much easier on the receiving end, and it also feels less pushy for you to do it as well, because at the end of the day, like I said, you got to close the deal. You have to sell at some point. There's got to be an offer that's produced and offered up to the client. But it's the way and method that you used to sell and to get to the sale, leading up to the sale, that's going to be what changes what that feels like to you, what it feels like to the client, and ultimately moving smoothly into the closing of a deal. So on this Wind Down Wednesday, I just wanted to highlight that because I felt like that was such a good topic to discuss today, considering, like I said, I was just talking to one of our strategic partners about sales and the intersection of where sales and business development meets. And of course, this is a part of business development because there's that nurturing that happens as a part of the sales process that then moves that prospective client along so that they're then able to move into the sales piece. So just wanted to cover that here today. Just thought that would be a good topic for discussion. And I would love to hear your comments and to hear your thoughts on this, especially if you're an attorney and you struggle with the sales piece of your business. I'll just be interested to know and to hear what your thoughts are on that. Thanks so much for joining this Wind Down Wednesday. I hope to see you at the next episode.